I get asked about packaging more than almost anything else. So today we'll be discussing the importance of sustainable packaging and the key factors to consider when you are designing and implementing eco-friendly stuff. From sourcing materials to disposal, local infrastructure, and how to avoid greenwashing. So, first things first, what materials are you going to use and why? And what format will your packaging be? Remember, nothing has no impact on the planet. So what you're going to use will be almost entirely decided by what it is you're making. If it's a liquid, your options are quite limited to plastic, glass, or aluminium in a couple of different formats. If it's fragile, you want to factor that in. If it's a robust, dry product, your options are a little easier. The gold standard for me in many instances is recycled paper or cardboard. It's widely available, it's biodegradable, uncoated, it's home compostable, and depending on the source, they have a lower carbon footprint than plastic. Opt for post-consumer recycled content to maximise the environmental benefits and ensure that there are no coatings that will prevent home compostability. You will be surprised what coatings will sneak in there. Now, probably my least favourite option is biodegradable plastic. Despite the name, they vary in terms of environmental impact. Just because they say they are biodegradable doesn't really mean much. The Titanic is currently biodegrading, for example. Most things biodegrade. Compostability is the key. There's a huge difference between biodegradable and compostable. If you want to read the specifics about that, head over to my blog on briannewest.com to read about the finer points. If there was truly a compostable, biodegradable plastic out there, it would be a global craze and used by companies like Coke. It would solve so many problems. As it stands, plastic is one of the most robust materials we have out there, which is why it's so convenient. Bioplastics are the same thing as typical plastic, but just made out of stuff like cornstarch. They are no better in terms of disposal. Bio-sourced does not mean biodegradable. And they are often just as bad, but in different ways for source materials. And of course, if you're thinking, oh, I'll just make sure it's recyclable, just because plastic is recyclable, it doesn't mean it will be. Less than 7% of all the plastic ever made has ever been recycled. We just don't have the infrastructure. Glass and aluminium are usually the replacements of plastic, but both have huge downsides. The carbon emissions to make both is huge. So you want recycled stuff, especially the aluminium, which is readily recycled. But not everything can be stored in aluminium. Glass is enormously heavy, and as a result, its freight footprint can be quite big. Recycling of glass doesn't happen as much as we would like, and it's energy intensive. So glass is probably best used for local-based businesses. Reusable packaging is another option. Design packaging that can be easily returned, refilled, or repurposed by your customers. This encourages the circular economy and reduces waste. For example, you can use glass jars for food storage, and cloth bags can be repurposed for shopping over and over again. But remember, logistics and customer behaviour need to be factored in. Customers just don't like to use refill programs. So how will you factor that in? How will you educate people? And with whatever material you are using, ensure you consider minimalist design. So use less by minimizing the size and complexity of your packaging. No one needs a box within another. And use only one material when possible instead of different layers, which prevents sorting at recycling plants. And before you make the final decision, investigate the recycling and composting infrastructure in the regions where your products are going to be sold, which could be difficult if you're a global company. Different areas will have varying waste and management systems and capabilities, and some places won't have any. So design your packaging to align with local infrastructure to maximize its potential for proper disposal. If you're going global, go for the most basic option. It doesn't hurt to advocate for better infrastructure too. If local recycling or composting infrastructure is insufficient, consider advocating for improvements or supporting local initiatives that work to enhance waste management systems. It's not only a great benefit for your business, but it contributes to the overall sustainability of the community. Above all else, you need to ensure your material and format is fit for purpose. If your packaging fails and you have to throw a lot of stuff away, that is the worst possible outcome for the environment and your business. So make sure that you do lots of testing. Okay, you have your material choice, arguably the toughest bit. So where will you source it? You will want to work with suppliers who prioritize sustainability. So this typically includes recycled or repurposed materials, sustainably harvested resources, fairly traded resources. You need to ensure you ask a lot of questions and don't fall for official looking certificates that are meaningless. Make sure you do lots of research. Speak to experts, ask questions, and don't be fobbed off. And don't feel that you're being unreasonable by asking those questions. I got over that a long time ago. I get called unreasonable all the time. Packaging is complicated, and suppliers use that to make you feel like you're making good choices when you might not be. So choose your suppliers really carefully. Look for those who prioritize sustainability and are transparent about their environmental practices, because they won't be perfect. So look for those who show you where they're working to do better. Look for certifications like FSC, which is Forest Stewardship Council. For paper-based materials, PEFC is another one. Or Cradle to Cradle for the entire product lifecycle. Prioritise local sourcing. So local sources reduce the carbon footprint of your packaging by reducing transportation. It's also nice to support local economies and minimise potential disruption to your supply chain should we have another global issue. Now let's think about end of life. How do you ensure your packaging doesn't end up in the ocean or clogging up a landfill? Design for recycling. Create packaging that is easy to recycle. So again, using a single material. Avoid using materials that are difficult to recycle like multi-layer plastics or that contaminate recycling streams like a plastic-coated paper. Design for composting. If your packaging is biodegradable or home compostable, provide clear instructions. Is it home compostable or industrially compostable? Packaging that is only compostable with an industrial system is not often a good idea, unless wherever you are has exceptional infrastructure and collection. Not many places do. If it's home compostable, you could consider partnering with local composting facilities or offering an in-store drop-off or whatever for those customers that don't have a garden. Consumer education. Educate your customers on proper disposal methods by including clear instructions on the packaging itself through in-store signage or online resources. Do not greenwash to make it look better than it is. It ends up having a much more negative impact on the planet. So encourage recycling and composting if your packaging allows, and highlight the environmental benefits of doing so. Can you provide some kind of incentive to your customers to do the right thing, like the bottle return scheme? And finally, let's talk about how you can avoid what many businesses are doing, which is greenwashing. Now, it seems obvious, but be transparent. Always be open and honest about the true environmental impact of your packaging. So clearly communicate the benefits and limitations of your materials and communicate the disposal methods to avoid misleading your customers. Transparency isn't a bad thing. It builds trust. It builds credibility with your audience. Talking about your journey will only build that trust, not undermine it. So 2, substantiate your claims. Ensure that any environmental claims you make about your packaging are backed up by research or studies or certifications. Utilise third-party verifications like Green Seal or the Global Eco-Labelling Network to validate your claims so that when you get asked tricky questions, you have proof. 3, continuous improvement. Strive for continuous improvement because I promise you whatever you choose won't be perfect, and that's okay. That's the way the world is right now. So regularly review your packaging materials, your design, your processes, and identify areas of improvement. You want to share your progress and challenges with your customers and also other businesses. Demonstrate your commitment to sustainability and build that trust. Now remember, it really is disappointingly impossible to be perfect at this stage. There simply isn't the materials out there yet. But you can make your packaging have as little negative impact as possible whilst impacting people in a good way and taking your customers along the journey with you as you work towards something even better. And that is the best you can do as a mission-led brand. This is an area I'm really particularly passionate about. So if you have any specific questions or this video doesn't quite answer something for you, send me an email and I will try and help.